Right, welcome everybody to the Rebeldom Revisited series. The reason that this came about is Lloyd and I have been discussing, we were talking about the Legacy the other day.
Yeah, literally.
It's actually how we met, how we became friends. It's been 13 years since the Legacy came out. Is it 13? 20?
So many years.
It's been a long time. I haven't gone and reread the Legacy since I wrote it. So we thought, well, let's do a read-along where I will talk about the Legacy and my experience of writing it. And then Lloyd will be here as the reader to put his 5 cents with it.
It's 10 cents. And also, I'm going to ask all the questions that you wanted to know.
Yes. The Legacy was written in 2012, and I published it independently in 2012, and then I was offered a publishing contract for the whole trilogy, and it was relaunched by Tracy McDonald Publishers in 2013, which is when you picked it up.
Yeah, boy.
And then The Legion and The Legend launched in 2014, the 2 sequels.
Oh, that was so intense.
Starting our read-along, we decided to read 3 chapters a week. So this week we started with the prologue, chapter 1 and chapter 2.
It was a fight to get it to do 3.
I was going to do a chapter a week and then realised we would be here for 5 years. I did my reading last night.
Mine don't have annotations. Do you know that I don't know how to do that? I
Just
get
stick the
confused
sticky
by it.
notes.
I know, but I don't do that.
I'll teach you before next week. My author's perspective. I was so tempted to call it a Prologue.
Oh, Prologue.
Oh, the Prologue. The opening line, still one of my favourite lines ever. I think only superseded by The Clock Keeper. But I love the opening line of The Legacy, which is...
World War III began on the 3rd day of September, the year 2016. And this is where I actually had questions.
That was quick.
I said, why 2016? And then I said, why the 3rd?
2016, because when I wrote it, probably late 2011, early 2012, I thought that 2016 sounded like a very, very, very long time in the future. So it was new author arrogance. I thought that before 2016, this book would have gone global and basically sold all the copies I needed to sell. And then that didn't happen. And then the 3rd day of September, I just liked how it sounded on the tongue. My anniversary is on the 2nd of September, my wedding anniversary. I just liked it on the 3rd day of September.
Cute.
I wish I'd chosen like some really significant date. Lloyd did make a very good point, and he said that in future I should do something on the 3rd of September, like celebration of sorts to
100%. Like,
call it.
the May the 4th be with you, but for the Legacy.
May the 3rd be heard. May we remember September. It's getting worse. Right, so that was the opening line, and then on page 2 immediately, when it starts referencing New York City in America, it becomes clear that the setting of this book is not South African. It's a story of this sort of nature where the comparables are things like the Hunger Games and Divergent. The American setting just worked really, really well.
It's because there's so many people there.
Yeah, and also I think that they would be more equipped. I saw something the other day on Facebook that, I don't know if it's true or not, that our Air Force has got like 1 working helicopter.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have been realistic. I don't think anyone would reasonably attack South Africa. We're not really a threat to anybody.
No.
What did occur to me in this prologue is that there were a lot of facts. I remember doing such a huge amount of research just to start this book.
And there are so many questions from me.
Shall we dive into those before I move on?
Is this for chapter 1 or for chapter 2? Because I've got quite a few.
This is the Prologue.
So in the Prologue, I said that I love that you pitted the USA versus Russia. But what made you choose those 2 superpowers specifically?
Literally just high school geography. We were always taught that those were the superpowers.
Yeah.
America and Russia. Also because it was backstory and it had already happened, it was just setting a scene. It didn't need too much thought. So I was just like, oh, let me choose the 2 superpowers. You know, who's been to the moon, right? That's Russia been to the moon.
Yes. That was during the Cold War. And then I brought up where you said that United States and Russia alone had more than 2,000 strategic nuclear weapons on high alert. And I was like, how much research did you do for this?
So much research.
And
So-
was that number like a thumbsuck?
No, those numbers are all based on research I found. The problem is, one website tells you one thing tells you another thing, right? I remember spending a lot of time on websites and also on some of those doomsday prophet websites.
How exciting.
Yeah, no, it was quite fun. And there are people who have literally dedicated websites to, in the event of, this is what. So that was pretty cool. So a lot of those numbers they were based on research. Whether they're 100% true, I don't know, because from website to website it differs. But ultimately, this nuclear war was a hypothetical situation that I had to kind of put my own spin on.
So in the book, in the Prologue, You say, in 10 years, the population of the United States was reduced from over 314 million to a mere 15 million people. So the only note for that was there's still too many people.
I actually probably should have made it less. 15 million is a lot of people.
I mean, listen, America's massive. And then the next sentence, you talk about like being dark and people famine and stuff, and you completely forget about all of that because of the after effects of the palm. And I was like, oh, I forgot about that. Because you mentioned that there was no like cell phone towers and stuff.
Yeah, that's dystopia, right? It's got to be super dark. There's got to be high stakes. Huge struggles for survival.
I know you said that there was like a super info bomb in the intro, but this was what made me interested in reading the book. Because it's like that survival, like, aspect. That's what's good.
I did feel that Rebecca was very Sarah Connor from Terminator. I feel like I was influenced by Sarah Connor. Like if I had to compare her to another character, because the publisher obviously pitted it against the Hunger Games and Divergent and all that, but it wasn't YA. I just feel like she had a lot of Sarah Connor vibes.
I told you this the other day, when I imagined her, first of all, you tell everyone that she has dark hair and her age. In my mind, I was like, yeah, she looks like Katniss.
She could look like Katniss, actually.
But blonde. I didn't imagine her having brown hair or I just imagined her being blonde and the age of Katniss.
She's 27. Okay, so, chapter
1.
As the author, when I reread this back, I found that it was a little bit underwhelming.
I didn't.
Chapter 1. I get what I was trying to do, and I get that I had to do it. I had to set that scene. The last line, obviously, I thought was fantastic. The narrative hook comes in that last line. Shows that Rebecca's working against Eric's.
Oh, Eric.
Multiple Eric.
All of them.
Shows that Bex is working against Eric. But I wasn't blown away by this chapter. I was like, it served a purpose, but I didn't feel that there was any sort of really good meat in it.
One, I wanted to know who you cast as Rebecca, because obviously I had cast someone else.
At the time, it was Ashley Green.
I love her.
She didn't look anything like Ashley Green. In the picture that I found of her, she had like long hair. She looked very, a little bit older. She obviously didn't have all that vampire makeup because she didn't look so pointy.
In my mind, I cast her as the chick from I Am Number 4.
But that's Morgan. That was who I cast as Morgan.
She was also in the Discovery of Witches TV series. She's so good.
She's so good.
She's just got that powerful face. And I was like, that's who she is in my mind. Also, there was a line in here that was shots fired to me now, having read this again. For the first time, I noticed a few lines around his sapphire blue eyes, although his hair is still black with no hint of grey. Eric turned 35 just a few weeks ago. So did I. I read this when I was, 22?
How old was I when I wrote it? If I'm 45?
You wrote it when you were 33. Also, you described Eric as an Arabian stallion, and that killed me.
I know! I wrote it down too! I think...
I laughed so hard.
I think what I was trying to get at was that he was that sleek, sinewy, like a racehorse. He wasn't like a rugged guy. In my head, it made sense. This was the first book I read.
So there's foreshadowing in here.
Is there?
Yes, you say combined strength and speed are present. And I was like, is this foreshadowing? Did you even know that you foreshadowed?
I think I must have. Isn't it in earlier though?
No.
Where I talk about...
No. This is in chapter 1. You say nothing. I was like, oh, the foreshadowing is real.
It was probably less intentional foreshadowing and more me being ignorant as to the fact that I was getting a game.
Well, I would have taken that as a compliment. I'd be like, I'll put that in there on purpose.
100% intentional. First book, I was nailing it from day 1. Chapter 2.
This had such a strong opening for me. Oh, I love this line so much.
What is chapter 2?
Marriage is the only war in which you sleep with the enemy.
Yes! I loved Jessie. So that line came from Jessie, right? That her Aunt Jessie told her that. Marriage is the only war in which you sleep with the enemy. Even in this post-apocalyptic world, Jessie was like, she was there for a good time, not for a long time. Do you know what I mean?
Same. I love that for her.
Yeah, and we also find out in this chapter about Rebecca's parents and what became of her father. This is part and parcel of building Rebecca's character, was always to make her someone who would survive this world, right?
Yeah.
She didn't do it by accident. She wasn't lucky. Her father was strategic. So he was the undersecretary to the Secretary of Defense.
You know what I said there? I said, say his title 10 times fast.
No. Undersecretary to the Secretary of Defense.
No. Undersecretary to the Secretary of Defense in the fields of acquisition, technology, and logistics.
How's that for a mouthful?
Yeah, I was like,
Sounds so
I was like,
smart.
say that 10 times fast.
So Rebecca wasn't lucky. She didn't end up in one of the safe zones because of luck or that she was exceptional at this time. She was in her mother's womb and her father was very strategic, because what I always wanted with Rebecca was a believable protagonist. Every step was intentional. She was designed as the character to be the chosen one. So I could use the chosen one trope without it being like contrived or like it was. Is it happenstance? Is that a word? Happenstance?
It is, but the dad talks about his kid and mentions the kid's name, and the mom's like, "What's his name?"
I noticed that too.
I was like,
I did sneak through 2 rounds of edits, but one thing I've learned in my now 13 years of publishing and writing is that you will always find. I have found typos in massive blockbuster fiction books, so it does happen.
I thought that it was meant to be there. This is where I was hooked, was when you started creating that post-apocalyptic. Now you've set up the scene, you set up the characters, and then you're now building on how they live in that world. And then I realized that you didn't do a lot of that. At one stage, then you just say that they went to school, and I was like, they were fighting for their lives and then they were at school.
I was trying to get to where I needed to be. I still don't think I did it quickly enough because there's quite a lot of backstory, I feel. But
I wanted so much more. I wanted so much more of them
living. We should do a novella on like their growing up.
I wanted so much more of them having gone from we're fearing for our lives to we're now going to school. Does that make sense? Yeah. I think that was like
a bit of a gap.
To skip a few for me, but I still loved it. It's critiques.
Well, I mean, it's not like you don't critique me. How many stars did you give Guardians on Goodreads?
A healthy 3 out of 5.
And your comment was?
It's amazing.
So Lloyd is not actually a very forgiving reader. So when we became friends, because of my books, it was like the biggest compliment. He's super critical of books. In chapter 2, we meet Jonathan. And, fun fact, Jonathan was actually directly modeled on my stepdad of the same name. Yes,
cute.
Also Jonathan, same height, same build, same kind of character, protective, which I thought was very cool. That was my way of honoring him. Authors do that a lot when they first start writing. I don't do it anymore. There's no author insertion. But in your first book, I think definitely it's a real thing.
Can I just say that we've been friends for 13 years, and I do not appear in one of your books. Not a single one.
Lloyd. The ending of chapter 2 where she talks about how she was kissing a boy, and obviously we've now been introduced to Aiden, who is one of the major love interests that carries throughout the entire trilogy. I kind of feel like this scene at the end where her mom dies while she's kissing Aiden and how her mental state is kind of like the end of Rebecca's innocence and the start of her transition into being the super soldier.
Yeah.
It's very much where Rebecca's journey starts to shift.
Yeah, she almost comes across as a bit like naive and like
yes,
aloof.
Yes.
And then I even marked it in here. I was like, we talk about where there's that harsh snub at the end when he like puts his hand on her shoulder and she like brushes it off. It's almost like she's changed in the fact that like her priorities are now different.
Yes, because she was so crushing on Aiden, and then when she had this opportunity, things had changed, and then she was like, no. And I think that also is another foreshadowing for her and Aiden to what she does later. It kind of becomes this pattern of Rebecca putting Aiden off for more important things that to her mind are more important because they're for the greater good.
Yeah.
I do still love this book so much. Book 2 is my favorite.
So good.
I can't wait to get there. But the one thing I did mean to mention and I didn't was in the prologue, the final line. He is the president of the new United States of America, the most heavily guarded man on the planet. He is also my husband and my greatest enemy. That is the narrative hook. It sets up this really high stakes scenario. And it also brings in that slogan, the one man, one woman, one war.
Yeah, because
of the legacy.
You build into that chapter, you talk about how she like almost idolizes him, the way that she speaks about him. And then you get to that last line and you're like, oh.
Yes, because it's kind of like he's the man who saved us. He's the man who did this. He's the man, he's the man, he's the man, he's the man. And then ending with, he's also my husband and my greatest enemy, which implies she is the woman and there is this war. So,
I love it.
Yeah, I think that's about all we can talk about these 3 chapters. I am really, really, really hoping to get some readers' perspectives and some questions in. We'll be good at this.
Bam!
That is episode 1. Done. Look at us. Yes. We will be back next week. So there'll be 1 episode a week and there will be 3 chapters a week. So if you are reading along, please, you need to read chapters 3, 4, and 5 before Friday. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments or drop us an email. There's so many ways to get hold of me. This series will be published on Substack, YouTube, and in my reader group. Oh, TikTok.
TikTok and Instagram. Everywhere.
I feel like I shouldn't put it everywhere.
I feel like you should though.
Okay. We will see you next week.
Bye.